File item 73, Senator Lowenthal. The Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 517 by Senator Lowenthal, enacting the high-speed rail.
Senator Lowenthal.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, SB 517 is the result of 9 oversight hearings of the High-Speed Rail Authority, which were held over the past 3 years by the Senate's Transportation and Housing Committee. We learned that the high-speed rail project is the most technically complicated surface transportation technology that can be deployed. It's complicated to construct, it's complicated to finance, and it's complicated to incorporate within existing communities. This requires board members familiar with these issues to provide informed policy direction to the project's executive director and staff. Further, the existing board is not subject to Senate confirmation, so we as senators do not have the opportunity to vet the qualifications of the board members. Another finding is that the authority is not within the organizational framework of state government. It's not directly accountable to the governor nor to his appointees. Specifically, SB 517 does the following. 1, it requires the board members to have specific skills such as engineering, legal, environmental, finance, and the like. Placing technically knowledgeable people on the board is not unusual. We do that for other boards. 2, it makes 5 appointees of the governors be subject to Senate confirmation. It places the authority in the Business, Transportation, and Housing Agency and appoints the secretary of the agency as a non-voting ex officio member of the board. In addition, all the existing appointees' terms expire next year, and new members shall be appointed to meet the requirements of this bill. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Discussion, members. Senator Yee.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Senators, let me commend the good work of Senator Lowenthal. When I also served on the Senate Transportation Committee, it was rather outrageous by the actions of the high-speed authority, where the voters had really clarified not only once but several times that we in fact wanted to have a high-speed rail that would connect Southern California and Northern California, and that the Transbay Terminal was in fact the destination point. And what we found was that the high-speed authority on their own decided that, well, I don't care what the voters said, we're going to do whatever we want to do. And they squander and they wasted quite a bit of money in terms of looking at alternatives. If that is the case, then you wonder why people in general don't trust the electoral process and what they vote for. I think that this bill is extremely important because it will bring back some integrity to the process and bring back some confidence that the voter, for the voters, that what they vote for is exactly what they're going to get. So with that, again, thank you very much, Senator Lowenthal, for your good work.
Thank you. Senator LaMalfa.
Thank you, Madam President. I stand in support of this bill. Anything would be better than what we have right now governing the High-Speed Rail Authority. Anything would be an improvement over an authority that has really no business plan, no idea where they want to route this railroad, no idea what it's going to cost, no idea who's going to ride it, how many people will ride it. It's a disaster. So this would be a good opportunity via Senator Lowenthal's bill to call timeout, put some people on the board that actually have an idea of how to build a railroad, how to run a business, and I would also ask that this body consider in the very short term not expending a single new dollar, whether these federal dollars that are coming through or our own bond dollars via Prop 1A, until we have a business plan, until we know where we're even going to put the railroad and whose land is going to be affected, what the people of the South Bay area think, what the people of the Valley think about where it's going to route through their lands, and not spend nearly $1 billion per year servicing the bond debt when we don't easily find $1 billion around here to take care of things like law enforcement and sheriffs and schools and some of these things that we're having to cut in order to get through this mess of a budget. Why in the world is this still a priority is beyond my type of thinking. So I support this measure that Senator Lowenthal is moving forward as one small step towards what we need to do in reassessing the high-speed rail system in California as its viability, as its cost effectiveness. I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Gaines.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm really troubled by what's happening with high-speed rail here in California. And when we look at the editorial that was in the Wall Street Journal yesterday that highlighted the massive amount of federal spending in the Central Valley for which is probably the least viable portion of high-speed rail in the state of California, I'm very disturbed. I think we're going down the wrong path and that we ought to be looking at higher concentrated levels of density in the state. We ought to be looking at Sacramento to San Francisco routes. We ought to be looking at LA to San Diego routes. We ought to be looking at existing technology with trains that could go to 125 miles an hour. That would greatly reduce the cost of high-speed rail. We ought to live within our means of the initial initiative at $10 billion, and we ought to be very careful about expending any of those dollars in the near future given the current fiscal mess that we're in. So I've got grave concerns. I do appreciate Senator Lowenthal and his willingness to try to start fresh, but I think it's based on the wrong assumptions because this could turn into a huge boondoggle if we don't rein it in. So I'm going to have to be opposed to the senator's legislation. Thank you.
Senator Steinberg.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I rise for several reasons. Number one, I want to commend Senator Lowenthal for trying to mend it, not end it, as a former president once said. This is the right step. You know, what's really happened with high-speed rail is that for years before the ballot measure passed, it was a very small organization that was focused on the preliminary work to try to put this measure before the people. And the people, let's not forget, said yes, they want this investment, and they want this investment because it's probably the only chance we have in this state to make a big impact in improving air quality, in moving people more efficiently from population centers in this state. And it also has the potential to create the single greatest public works project, you talk about infrastructure, in the history of this state. And the people said yes. The federal government has said California is far ahead of the nation's curve here, and they've awarded us $3.5 billion. And given what other states are doing, there may be more. And so I want to just make it very clear publicly, while I have concerns about the governance and about the staffing issues and about some of the things that motivate Senator Lowenthal's bill, I want to send a signal as leader of this House to the federal government and private sector partners that California is in. We want this to work. And this bill and these reforms will help give people the confidence that we can finish this project. I urge an aye vote.
Senator Rubio.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And that's a great segue in sending that message to the federal government as to which leg of the high-speed rail is the most viable. And I would respectfully disagree with Senator Bates that the Central Valley leg is not viable. Let me put it very simply. You only get high-speed rail in the Central Valley. If you do not build it in the Central Valley, you do not have high-speed rail. And so when we build it, it should be built in the Central Valley so that we can say that in the United States of America, we have finally accomplished the goal in reaching high-speed rail and building it there. I know this bill doesn't touch on where to build it, but I wanted to make sure for the record we commented on what's viable and not. Thank you very much.
Senator Correa.
Thank you, members. Just to be brief, those federal dollars have an expiration date. High-speed rail is doing its work. It needs accountability measures. Clearly, this is a strong step in that direction. Let's get Californians back to work and get some accountability here. Ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion, members? Then Senator Lowenthal, you may close.
I think we've had a good discussion. I think that the message in this bill is we've now done a great deal of oversight. This will make it work. Let's make sure that we have high-speed rail that works. I urge an aye vote.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Calderon. Aye. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Tedlu. Aye. Carolu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Runner. No. Smidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee. Aye.
Call the absent members.
Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Emerson. Rubio.
The ayes are 26, noes 12. The measure passes.